amount of fun writing this, and I had help from people like my friend Joel Bernstein, who said, you know, you said that was 1972, but it couldn't have been 1972 because I have a photograph of you in that jacket, and behind you on the television screen it says scrolling, and it's some weird thing. It said so, but he has that kind of mind, and so I needed that occasionally. And also my sister just emailed me and told me I got the date of my mother's death wrong. I'm sure I'm going to hear about that. My father was dead at 46, and ever since that day I've been living two lives, mine and his. And also, and you read this in the book, I never could figure out why my mother and father supported me wanting to be a musician. In the north of England, I'm sure it's pretty similar all over. You're supposed to do what your dad did. And if your dad was down in the mine, well, it's good enough for you, son, get on with it, right? But my mother and father never let me fall for that. And I asked my mother about 2 years before she died why that was. And she said, because I wanted to be a singer. She said, I thought I had a good voice. I wanted to be on stage. But World War II happened, I married your father, we had 3 kids. It was over for me, but you're living my life. Let's cut now to 1971. Crosby and I are playing Carnegie Hall. And he has to go and take a pee, right? So I'm like talking to the audience, and I start to tell them this story about my mother, right? And as I'm telling the story, I slowly reached my hand inside my jacket and pulled out some of my mother's ashes and sprinkled them on the stage at Carnegie Hall. The audience went. Anyway, my life is full of insanity. You're going to read about it in this book. A couple of friends came up to me and said, you know, I took you to the bathroom, I was going to take a pee, and I thought I'd read the first couple of pages just to see what it was like. And 150 pages later, I still haven't peed, and I'm still So, I'm here. I'm really appreciative that you're here. I know how valuable time is, because even Warren Buffett, and Bill Gates can't buy a second of time, not 1 second. So we have to fill our lives with the best that we can. Surround yourselves by the best friends who will call you on your shit, because that's the only way you're going to grow. I personally don't have yes men in my life. I don't need to be told, what they think I am. I get on with my life. And I'm looking forward to the next 71 years. So, anybody have any questions that you want? Yes, ma'am.
I just have one small question.
A small question.
A small question. I was at the show last night, which was wonderful, by the way.
Yes,
It
was great.
And how did you first start going barefoot? Because it was like a dance. I was just ready for you to start.
I think life is a dance. And I want to be the best dancer. I'll never make it, but I'm trying. What happens when I don't wear shoes is that when I'm with the band, I can feel the bass and the kick drum through my feet, because they're shaking the stage more than anything. And that anchors me to the band. It anchors me to the groove of what we're playing. That's why I don't wear shoes.
I'm a dancer, so
Interesting. Yes, sir.
I remember at a different time a number of years ago when we first met, you were talking about how your father took you into the dark room for the first time, showed what my dad does too. So I grew up on that. And the first time you did your own print, you saw it appear in front of you, you thought it was the most fantastic thing ever. And I meant to ask you then, and I guess an equal epiphany was when you sang with Crosby and Stills the first time, and on the third try they said, "No, you come in." And then you heard yourselves together for the first time.
There's got to be a question here.
Yeah. So
I was on page 7.
So I haven't read the book yet. I will read it. I haven't now. But I meant to ask. I know they're very different, but between the two, which one would you think was more magical for you, or were they about equal?
I think creating songs and touching people's hearts with the songs, That's a magical, magical thing. I don't know why God, Buddha, Muhammad, whoever you think is up there or down there or whatever you feel is running this universe. I don't know why they gave me this gift, but I've been able to do it since I was a kid, and I've been a photographer longer than I've been a musician. In my book, Eye to Eye, the first portrait in there is the one I took of my mother when I was 10. And I knew from that moment that I saw her differently. It wasn't a snapshot, and I didn't quite know who my subject was. It was my mother, but I caught her in a mood that I'd never seen before. And I knew from that moment that you know, the creation of images will be big in my life. I don't really see much difference between photography and music. A lot of people say, hey, how does a musician take pictures like this? You know, but to me it's a kind of a silly question, because I see, I'm going to simplify things here. I see life as a column of energy stretching from the infrared all the way to the ultraviolet. Where do you want to plug in? Do you want to plug in here, which is music, or do you want to plug in here, which is photography? I don't see the difference. When I look at Ansel Adams' portrait of the moon, you know, Moonrise over Hernandez, a very famous image, I can hear the violins. I can in the clouds. I can look at the dark areas and sense cellos playing certain lines. There's no difference to me. It's all energy. Where do you want to plug in? That's how I look at my life. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Pete, and it's a pleasure to speak with you. Oh, sorry.
I heard it, Pete.
I'm very good, thank you. I first publicly wanted to say to you that I want to thank you for the joy that your music has brought the world and brought me and my family over all these years. Music is a very, very important part of life, and I'm grateful for it. And the question I wanted to ask you is, do you have any moment, either in the studio or on stage, that maybe was the most emotional for you, something that maybe even when you least expected it touched your heart?
There is, and it's a rather dark one. I remember once at Crosby was so down, so caught up in the spiral of cocaine madness that he had to leave the stage, and we had to actually, during one tour, build a small room right off the stage so David could get high between songs. One day, it got too much for him, and he took a short break in the dressing room, leaving the stage to me and Stephen. I did, you know, Stephen did several songs. We're filling in time now because we know David is not there, right? I do several songs, and while I'm doing my songs, Stephen went down to figure out where Crosby was. And David was lying, not unconscious, but certainly close to it, on a couch. And Stephen took an incredibly large bucket of ice water and threw it on David. And David came back to the stage drenched. And it was at that moment that I realized that we had lost our agreement. Me and David's agreement was that we would never be victims of rock and roll, that we would only succeed. And we've always had that unspoken thing between us, that we can't let this, no matter how big it gets and how much we can afford another ounce of cocaine, it didn't make any difference. We must keep our eye on the fact that the music is the most important thing. But at that moment when I saw Crosby come back to the stage completely soaked, and Stephen told me and whispered in my ear what had happened, that was a very low moment for me. On the other end, a high moment, the first time that David and Stephen and I ever sang together. Whatever sound Crosby, Stills and Nash has was born in less than a minute. It did not take us months to work out harmonies, parts, a minute. I was in London, I flew to Los Angeles to be with Joni. David and Stephen were at dinner, and after dinner, David said to Stephen, he said, play Willie, that song, you know, that we were just doing. And Stephen had written this beautiful song called You Don't Have to Cry. It's a fabulous, fabulous song. And they sang it two-part, and it was damn good. And they got to the end of it, and I said, wow, first of all, that's an incredibly great song, Stephen. That's just fantastic. I said, do me a favor, just sing it one more time. And they looked at each other, and they sang it one more time. And they got to the end, and I said, okay, do me a favor, sing it one more time. And in the first 3 times that they were singing it, I got my part down, I knew what my harmony was, I'd learned all the words, I knew how David was holding his body at a certain breath, how long he was going to hold this breath. I had my shit down. I'm good at what I do. I've spent the last 60 years doing it, and if I was a plumber, I'd be a great fucking plumber too. So, whatever sound we had was born in that first minute. We had to stop the song and start laughing. I mean, the Birds and the Springfield and the Hollies were good harmony bands, as we all know, but this was something different. This was something that none of us had ever heard before. And that sound was born in 1 minute.
I'd just like to say thank you for all the music that you've brought in all.
How old are you?
15. I'm turning 16 October 26th.
Well, happy birthday. I'll come and give you a hug afterwards. You're going to be 16 on your next birthday, and you're here talking to me about music? That's fantastic.
We were going to your show on Wednesday. You are her sweet 16th birthday present, and she has something she's going to give you on Wednesday when we see you at the meet and greet.
You got it.
I just wanted to know what your advice for your musician is.
I'm not one for giving advice. I'm trying to deal with my own shit, you know? No, seriously, I mean, we all have, you know. I mean, do you give advice? No, I didn't think so. But if I did, I would say just follow your heart. You know what's good, and you know what's bad. Follow the good stuff. You have a choice, right? Follow the good stuff. That's all I've ever done with my life. That's what my mom and dad taught me. You're going to go out in the universe, you have a good heart, follow your heart, you'll be okay. And it's worked out spectacularly well for me. Follow your heart. That's the only advice I would give you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have time for 2 more formal questions this evening. This is her.
A photography question. Which do you find most satisfying when you come upon a scene, you know there's something there, you're going to shoot this way, you're going to shoot that way? Or is it more satisfying when you compose in the viewfinder, or ultimately when you see it?
When it comes to taking photographs, it's the moment when I decide to press the trigger. Like I said, I know, to me, and it's only a personal opinion, I know when a shot is good. It all clicks, you know. People say, well, you know, Photoshop, I mean, you're manipulating stuff. Well, I think if you're taking my picture right now and I move over here, right, we're manipulating the image right from the start before you've even shot the shot. So the moment of perfect composition with interesting subject matters, with a surreal edge that I demand from the universe, that's one. The other is finishing the song and playing it for my wife Susan. If I can get it past me and past her, I stand a good chance of getting it past you. That moment of completion of the song is a very special moment for me, for several reasons. One of them is that a song isn't out of my body, out of my soul, until you can buy it. Then I can let it go and leave room for the other stuff that's going to come in. I think the completion of a song, knowing internally that you feel that it might change people's lives about how they think, about how they want to interact with their fellow human being, it's equating to the moment that I decide to press the trigger. So those are the 2 moments for me that are magical. Yes, sir.